Welcome to the Fit Woman Formula podcast, where we show women just like you how to reclaim your energy, rebuild your body, and step into you 2.0. I'm Coach Jonathan, founder and head coach of the Fit Woman Formula coaching program. This show is for women who are tired of starting over and ready to finally create results that last. Not just weight loss, but real confidence, a healthier relationship with food, a stronger mindset, and a lifestyle that finally lasts. You can watch full episodes on YouTube or listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you enjoy podcasts. And if you're ready to learn more about how we can help you unlock the energy and confidence of your 20s while dropping 2+ sizes in the next 12 weeks, visit fitwomanformula.com. All right, let's get into today's episode. Today, we're going to talk about something that I think a lot of women deeply believe about themselves. And honestly, I think this is one of the biggest lies that women have been telling themselves for a very long time. And I hear this all the time. And it's this idea that you're not consistent, or this thought that I need to be more consistent. But I really want you to think about something for a second. Are you actually inconsistent? Because I don't think you are. I don't know that that's the problem. You show up for work, you take care of your kids, you pay your bills. Hopefully you're paying your bills. You remember appointments for the most part. You keep your household moving. You handle a ton of responsibilities. So clearly you're capable of being consistent. And later in this episode, I'm going to explain why some of the most motivated women actually struggle the most when it comes to consistency with weight loss, because this is not nearly as simple as people make it sound. Now, we're going to talk about why health is different from all the other stuff I just laid out, kind of your regular life, if you will. So here's the difference, is that health and weight loss usually come with no structure, no urgency, no clear system, and honestly, just way too many options. One person says cut carbs, another person says intermittent fasting, right? Another one says hormone balancing, or reset your hormones, or reset your metabolism. You hear all kinds of crazy stuff these days. You hear do 6 workouts a week. You hear don't do cardio. You hear only do cardio. No wonder women feel so overwhelmed. And then there's confusion. Consistency gets harder, not because you don't care, but because your brain is constantly trying to figure out, what am I actually supposed to do? This is overwhelm. Okay. Again, I laid out all the things you're doing, and that was a very short list. You've got a lot of responsibilities. You have a very full plate. You have what I would refer to as lack of bandwidth. Okay. You can't take on a ton of other stuff. So it's just an overwhelming situation. And this is one of the biggest things that I want you to understand today. Consistency is not a personality trait. I'm going to say that one more time. Consistency is not a personality trait. Being consistent is usually the result of having a system. So most women are trying to stay consistent through motivation, through memory, through good intentions. And that lasts for about 5 days, and maybe 2 weeks if you're really fired up. But eventually, life punches you right in the face. Okay? Kids get sick, work gets stressful, schedules change, things pop up, energy drops, right? And suddenly the whole thing falls apart because there was never a real system underneath it. And stay with me here, because in just a moment, what I'm going to share is probably one of the biggest reasons that women keep starting over. One of the biggest mindset shifts that we coach our clients through is this. Your plan, week to week, is a rough draft. Okay, this is not a legal binding contract. Okay, and I know that almost sounds too simple, but this really changes everything, because most women treat their plan like it has to happen perfectly. A rigid plan is not going to work. You just have to face the facts about that. Most plans that you try to stick to, it's like, okay, workouts, maybe they're just saying Monday through Friday is what you need to be doing. Okay, and then if you miss one of those, well, then you just feel like a failure. Now, let's say that you have a workout plan for Tuesday and you miss it, right? So now the week feels ruined. Dinner didn't go as planned. Now it's, I'll restart Monday. That's not flexibility. That is perfectionism disguised as discipline. Okay. A rough draft mindset says, and a flexible mindset. Okay, I hope you ladies are listening closely that have been struggling with this. Okay, Tuesday got crazy. Where does this move? That meal didn't go as planned. What's my next best decision? This is how consistency is actually built. It's not through perfection. It's through adjustment. It's through adjusting on the fly. The ladies who are successful at this can adjust on the fly. Okay. And honestly, look, a lot of women, they think that If they miss one workout, the week is ruined. That's crazy. Meanwhile, if one of your kids, think about it like this, if one of your kids missed a homework assignment, would you pull them out of school and say, well, I guess we're done here? I guess we're done. No. But that's exactly how a lot of you are treating yourselves with health and fitness. It's like, getting a flat tire and then deciding because you got one flat tire, you're going to slash the rest of them. It's crazy. One imperfect moment becomes a reason to spiral. And that is the mindset that keeps women stuck. This is something that's huge for ladies with ADD and ADHD. And I think this deserves its own conversation right here, okay? Because it's actually pretty incredible. It's really interesting. Over half of the women that we coach right now had ADD or ADHD. And before we go any further, I want to be really clear about something. With what I'm about to share with you, I don't want you to think I'm being dismissive of any of this. Okay. The truth is that could not be further from the truth. When you have legitimately been diagnosed with ADHD or ADD, your brain does just work differently. That is just reality. And because your brain works differently, certain things can absolutely feel harder. Planning, organization. We're talking about consistency. Consistency can feel harder. Decision making, right? Getting overwhelmed is very real. Follow through. All of that can feel much heavier. But I think where a lot of women start getting themselves into trouble is when they start turning that into an identity. And again, I want to say this as lovingly as possible here. I had ADD, I have ADHD, this is just who I am. I can't be consistent because of my ADHD. I'll never be able to stay on track. I'm actually thinking about one of our clients in particular right now, because we talked earlier today in a check-in, and her name is Britt, and she is awesome. I'm going to make sure that she listens to this. I can't brag on her enough. She's a teacher, okay, and we work with a lot of teachers and educators as well. And when we first got started together, her energy was extremely low. Her health and her weight were not in a good place. She was overwhelmed. She was really struggling. And one of the things that kept coming up in conversation was how she probably couldn't do certain things because of her ADHD. And I want to be really clear. This is someone that I had been talking to and had been reaching out to me for a couple years. She was very hesitant to work with us. She was very hesitant to invest in herself. And that's pretty much all the ladies we're working with. Because if we think about it like this, most of you have been burned by some other program out there, or you've tried everything, if you like. So why would this work? The Brits are a really good example of how we do things differently. And again, as I get into this, I want to be careful here because, I was never dismissing what she was going through or what she was feeling. But again, I did lovingly tell her, hey, I hear you, but we need to change your language around this. Because if you continue to hold on to these limitations, that's what's going to hold you back. And again, this is not me saying that ADD or ADHD is just all mindset. Okay. Your brain absolutely works differently. But when you start understanding that, when you start planning better, when you stop trying to force yourself into systems that don't work for your brain, everything starts changing. Because now, guess what? You stop expecting perfection. You stop trying to rely on, ladies, motivation. You stop creating plans that completely overwhelm you. Look, this is it. You need a system. And when you build a system that actually works for you instead of against you, that's when everything changes. And what's incredible is that Britt started out feeling like consistently was just impossible for her. That's just the reality. Like where she was a personal flaw. Like she simply was not capable of sticking with anything. But now guess what? This is so awesome. And we were really celebrating a lot of this today. One thing in particular, which I'll share with you. But now she's dropped a couple sizes. Her energy is dramatically better. She is actually in the process because of her confidence and seeing and feeling what she is capable of moving into a new, better job. And she's going through job interviews right now, and she's much more prepared mentally and physically for all of that. It's a pretty demanding process, right? She's setting a better example for her special needs daughter. Okay. And on top of that, she's doing things like staying on top of her calories and protein. She's got a food plan for the week that makes her life easier and her family's life easier. She's keeping her body fueled. And now what we were really celebrating today, yes, are some of these physical changes that are going on. And a big part of those physical changes are coming with the fact that she's in the gym twice a week consistently now. Okay. This is huge. If I had told her a few months ago that she would be doing all this, she probably would have said, there's no way. And that's why this conversation matters so much. Because yes, again, ADD and ADHD can absolutely create challenges, but that does not mean you are incapable of consistency. It means you need a better system. You need better planning. You need more flexibility. You need less overwhelm. And it means that you need to stop speaking about yourself like you're broken, because you're not. This is not a personal thing. Again, this is not a personality trait. One of the things that I share with the ladies that have ADD and ADHD is that they're thinking that they're alone in this. And a lot of the times they're just describing maybe a slightly more extreme version of what all of you ladies are experiencing, of what all of you are saying. All of you need help with organization, with time management, and with being consistent, right? If you're listening to this right now and you're realizing, well, maybe I don't need another reset. Maybe it's not just me. Maybe I need a better system. That's exactly what we help women build inside the Fit Woman formula. In fact, literally chatting with someone right now in my DMs. She reached out to us through an ad. I'm hoping she'll see this, but she might not. And she's saying, I'm ready. And she's giving me a list of reasons as to why she needs to do this desperately. She needs to make a change. There's no question. But she's going to wait until next month for things to calm down. How many of you ladies have said or thought something like that? If I just get to this point, if I just wait until school ends, if I just wait until this project calms down at work. You see, the system that we're helping women build helps you to deal with real life. You need to stop assuming that at some point life is just going to get a million times easier and everything's going to slow down and it's just going to get organized just right. And this is going to go in this box and this is going to go in this box and kids are never going to get sick and these things aren't going to pop up. That's not your life. You got to start this now. You got to start this now. Okay. So if you want more info again on what we do, you can go to fitwomanformula.com. Now, this next idea is huge. Your consistency should have a floor, meaning that on your hardest weeks, there should still be something that you can maintain. We refer to this as your core habits. Okay? Now, most women have two settings, all in or completely off. Okay? That's exhausting. Now, these core habits might look like hydrating, getting some protein in for breakfast, a couple short walks, couple workouts instead of 4. Okay. It looks different for everyone. But this is how you stop spiraling, because now a stressful week doesn't turn into, well, I guess I ruined everything. This is actually a conversation that we're having quite a bit inside of our community, just because it's that time of year where, unfortunately, allergies are going on like crazy. Ladies are getting sick. There's like a few different strains of flu going around right now. Okay. We're just getting into that time of year, unfortunately. And it's very easy to feel like, okay, I started this plan, I was on track, and now I'm sick, and now it's just, I've blown it all up. Okay. And so, what we're really guiding ladies towards is considering and planning out what your core habits are. What are the core habits? What are the things that are reasonable to stick to based on where you are right now? I would say for most ladies, it's staying hydrated. And if you're feeling up to it, getting some low intensity movement in a couple times. And I would say if you can do those two things and maybe just make mindful food choices, that's pretty good for when you're sick. Because it's real easy to just throw in the towel and say, fuck it, I'm not feeling good. I'll get back to it next week. But the more you do that, it's like going back to school. The more you do that, the more you throw in the towel, the more you do the start over stuff, the easier it is to keep doing it. The harder it is to get started and stay consistent, right? And, this is another big problem here for ladies. It's decision fatigue. Most women are just mentally exhausted. And again, how would I know about this? I'm not a woman, right? Okay? Because I'm hearing it every day. This has been my life for the better part of the decade now. You need to understand that. Okay? You're making decisions all day long. I'm very clear on what's going on. You're making decisions all day long for your kids, for work, for your family, for probably a lot of other people in your life. For like most of the ladies we work with, again, I would categorize as caretakers. There's lots of people that you're taking care of in your life. Okay. And then the health and weight loss adds 50 more decisions typically. What should I eat? Should I track this? Should I work out today? Did I mess up? Should I just restart Monday? A good system reduces decisions. Let me give you a great example of that. I want you to look at what I'm wearing. Have any of you ladies noticed that I am always wearing a black t-shirt? Okay. Now, some of you might think this is silly. I personally like black is just my favorite color. I like black. Okay. But one of the reasons that I started doing this many years ago is because I didn't want to have to go into my closet with everything else I had going on in my life and figure out what the fuck I was going to wear for the day. Okay. I did not want to deal with that. Now, you ladies probably can't pull that off, nor would you want to. Okay. But this is the point. We need to reduce the amount of decisions. This is one of the biggest advantages of coaching. You stop trying to figure everything out yourself. The plan's there, the structure is there, and your energy stops getting wasted on constant overthinking and overwhelm. Okay. So consistency also gets easier when you can actually see progress. I had this conversation 3 times today. Okay, I'm not kidding you. 3 times today. This is another reason that ladies fall off. A lot of the times they're only looking at the scale. So they completely miss the fact that they have better energy, better sleep, clothes are fitting differently, strength is improving, confidence is improving. They've got more freedom with their food, right? Obsessing less over food. And when you can't see progress, your brain starts questioning the process and it becomes so much easier to quit. So one of those conversations I was having earlier today with another one of our incredible clients, someone that's been extremely consistent. Okay. We were having the conversation. There's been a kind of a reluctance almost, a hesitation to look at some of these physical changes that might be happening. Okay. And that's very normal. That's very normal because sometimes there's a fear around this, right? Again, it's like I failed so many times. Like I really want this to work. And you know what? I almost don't even want to talk about what the progress is looking like. You know, there's a hesitation to even look at it. There's a lot that goes into that. There's a lot to unravel there. And we'll definitely talk about that in a later episode. But this was someone that we really had to do some digging. We really had to do some digging. And, it started out a little bit more surface level with I just said, hey, look, we're going to talk about the thing that you kind of don't want to talk about, but we need to be. We got to force you to do this here. Okay. Have you noticed any changes in what you're seeing in the mirror or, how clothes are fitting or anything like that? And what she's been sharing with me a lot is this aunt of hers who I love to death. Never met her, never talked to her, don't even know her name, but I love her to death because every time I talk to this client, she says, well, my aunt tells me that she's seeing a big difference. I just said, look, I love that. Okay, that's helpful that someone else is seeing it. That helps kind of build up this list of evidence that what you're doing is working. So I do love that. How want to hear from you? What are you seeing? Well, my stomach's going down a little bit. Stomach looks a little flatter. That's cool. Are clothes fitting any different? She kind of paused at this. In past check-ins, it's just been a quick no. I said, okay, you didn't say no right off the bat. It tells me there's something. Well, it turns out she's fitting in a pair of shorts that she couldn't even put on a year ago. Like, why are we not talking about this? Why are we not talking about this? And I gave her the same reminder here. If you don't see the progress, if you're not accounting for the progress, if you're not acknowledging and celebrating the progress, then your brain says there's no progress. Okay. So again, your brain starts questioning the process. This is why we talk about wins so much in our program. What's going well? You need to be forced to look at these things and forced to look frequently so that you're not questioning the process. You know it's working. Okay. And this is why coaching and support matter so much. You need someone else to help you see the wins that you're overlooking. So here are the questions that you need to be asking. Really the main question. Instead of asking yourself, why can't I stay consistent? Why can't I stay consistent? I want you to ask a different question. What part of this plan that I'm trying to follow doesn't fit my real life? That's a completely different conversation. Because now, ladies, you stop attacking yourselves and you start looking at the system and you've opened the door to building and then improving a system. And honestly, that shift alone changes a lot for women. So here's what I want you to do this next week. I want you to build your floor. I want you to pick 2 core habits, not 10, not 3, 2. I want you to pick your minimum movement plan. I want you to pick your backup plan for stressful days and when things pop up. Okay. Meaning, let's say you're planning on getting 2 walks in Monday, Wednesday. What are your backup days? And don't just automatically say Tuesday, Thursday. Go and look at your calendar. Look at what you have going on for the week. And please stop trying to create the perfect plan. Okay. Perfect plans, quote unquote, are usually the ones that most women quit the fastest. So in the next episode, we're going to talk about something that I think almost every lady out there struggles with at some point. And it's why the scale is probably messing with your head way more than you realize. Because for a lot of women, the scale determines whether or not you are successful and how you feel that day. Okay? And it creates a really unhealthy relationship with weight loss in your body and with progress. So we're going to break all that down in episode 11. And that wraps up today's episode of the Fit Woman Formula podcast. I hope today's conversation helped you take one more step toward reclaiming your energy, rebuilding your body, and stepping into you 2.0. If you found this helpful, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss future episodes. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, I'd really appreciate it if you left a quick rating or review. It helps more women discover the show. Ready to unlock the energy and confidence of your 20s while dropping 2+ sizes in the next 12 weeks without restricted diets, useless supplements, or living in the gym? Visit fitwomanformula.com to learn how we've helped hundreds of women just like you. I'll see you in the next episode.